want to sit here?
All right, everyone. Welcome. Sorry we're running just a couple minutes late here, but we certainly do appreciate you all being here today for the official invitation announcement for University of Florida to play Michigan in the 51st Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Obviously, I know the guys on the ends here don't need any introductions down here, but in the center there is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl president and CEO, Gary Stokan, and he'll kick things off. Gary, we'll go ahead.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you for all attending this. We appreciate you being here. We're really excited to have number 10 and number 7 playing in a New Year's Six bowl game in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're already sold out. It's going to be an awesome atmosphere when you put two of the best brands in college football on the field on December 29th. Florida, as we know, 21st in the country in scoring defense, ranked 10th nationally for fewest passing yards. I think it's going to be defense versus defense. Michigan, obviously, the number 1 scoring defense in the country. So Coach Mullen's going to have to pull some rabbits out of the hat here offensively, which he's liable to do. We've got 2 teams that are combined 14 national championships, 50 conference championships, and 6 Heisman Trophy winners. 2 of the best brands in college football in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. This will be the 3rd trip for Florida to the Peach Bowl, and they haven't been there in 14 years. So we're glad to have Florida Gators back in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and really excited. Let me tell you a little bit about the bowl game. We're going to be played at noon, December 29th, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, nationally televised on ESPN. We're the most charitable bowl organization in the country. It's something that's very important to us. We were founded and created to give. We were founded by the Lions Lighthouse in Atlanta, and we've given $31.8 million away in charitable and scholarship donations since 2002. So that's very important to us. And related to that, we're going to make a $100,000 donation to an endowed scholarship at the University of Florida and the University of Michigan for playing in our game. We do that every year for our kickoff game and our bowl game. As I said, we're sold out. This will be the 20th time we've sold out in 22 years. So we're awfully humbly proud of that. And we'll have the semifinals next year. I know Florida will want to come back. Dan's already negotiating. But we'll have the semifinals in 19, and we've just signed a new 6-year contract with CFP to extend our New Year's Six contract, hosting the semifinals in 22 and in 25. So again, we couldn't be any more thrilled and excited. First time in 28 years we've had an SEC Big Ten matchup, and we know that we look forward to hosting all of you in Atlanta. Hope you come early, and we'll look forward to hosting you. With that, what I'd like to do is officially, hopefully he doesn't turn it down, extend our letter of invitation to Scott Stricklin for University of Florida to play the University of Michigan in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Scott?
Thank you, Gary.
Welcome.
Thank you, Gary. On behalf of the University of Florida, this is a great honor, and we're ecstatic to come up to Atlanta to be a part of a New Year's Six bowl and to do it with one of the bowl games that really stands out in the college landscape, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Obviously the Gators have a lot of familiarity playing in Atlanta, whether it's in past Peach Bowls or SEC championship games. It'll be the first time that the Gators have had a chance to play in the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so that'll be a thrill. That New Year's Six designation is really special, and there's obviously only 12 opportunities to be a part of one of those. And not only are we in it, we get a chance to kick off those 6 games this year, and we're honored to be a part of the bowl and play University of Michigan. I know we're going to have a lot of Gator fans come up and help support the Gators.
Great.
All right, Coach, we'll go ahead and take some comments from you on the matchup.
Well, we're really excited. First, I want to thank Gary for the invitation. I know I've known Gary for a long time, and one thing I know about the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, I haven't never been in the game, but everything they do is first class. I've been involved in their charity golf outing for years, and which is an unbelievable first class operation, and so I can't imagine how the bowl game's even going to be, of what level it's going to be. So I'm really excited for our players and for the University of Florida to be a part of the game and to get to go experience this. It should be really exciting. The last time I know the Gators, I remember watching the Gators play the last time they were in the Peach Bowl. I was at a hotel in Phoenix preparing to play the next day and then get on a plane the following day to come be part of the Gator family. And so I think it was 2 days before I got here to Gainesville. I remember watching that game and trying to look at what type of players we would have when we got here. So that was pretty exciting. So it's great to be back. Great to be playing in the New Year's Six Bowl game. So I'm really excited about this game, about the bowl experience. For our players, obviously, it'll be a great challenge. Michigan's an excellent football team. When you look what they do, they're physical up on the offensive side of the ball, run the ball, great ball control, put a lot of pressure on you on the offensive side of the ball. Then they're extremely aggressive on defense. And when they got a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, when you're playing ball control and physical on offense, and you're controlling the tempo of the game. And then you can come back and put an aggressive blitzing defense on the field. It puts a lot of pressure on the other team to execute at a very high level, and because possessions and points are going to be a premium in the game. So it should be a great challenge for us. One that I know that we accept. We love challenges, and anytime, obviously the great opportunity playing in a game like this, you get a top 10 matchup, and anytime you're in a top 10 matchup in college football, those are great games. So we're really excited.
Let me tell you a little bit about our Bowl Week experience. We've done this a long time. We have great continuity of staff at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and you've met Matt Garvey. David Epps, our COO and VP of Marketing, is in the back. But we have truly the best staff in the bowl business. Our volunteers, we love Southern hospitality in Atlanta. We'll have 550 volunteers get involved in this game during Bowl Week, and we think of it as a reward for the players. They're the ones through the winter, spring, summer, and then playing in the fall deserve to be treated first class. And so we have a theme we use, live, laugh, and learn. The players will live great. They'll stay in a great hotel. They'll go around first class in buses, and they'll eat great food like Chick-fil-A. We let them laugh. We have a Battle for Bowl Week. It's about a 40-pound WWE belt that every night there's a different competition because all these kids want to do is compete. And we want them to have some fun. So we'll have a competition every night for the belt, and then whoever wins the cumulative rankings will get the belt to take home with them. We've seen that belt in a lot of different places. It's kind of like the Stanley Cup. The guys really get into the Battle for Bowl Week belt. And then we want them to learn. So we'll take them to Martin Luther King, where we'll have Congressman Lewis and Andy Young and C.T. Vivian, who were 3 of the top 8 people in Dr. King's civil rights movement. And they'll talk about leadership. And we'll do it in Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King spoke. And to have both teams sitting together, which is a no-no in the bowl business, but to have both teams in Ebenezer Baptist Church sitting together, listening to those leaders, it's really it's a living history lesson. So and then we take them to Children's Health Care, where they're going to visit and make kids smile that didn't get out of the hospital for Christmas and will never get out of that hospital. So, we're going to live, laugh, and learn. It's going to be a great week. We got the College Football Hall of Fame right there that hopefully you will all get there and have an experience there, an immersive experience of college football. Finally, just to give you a little example, we've got some video that we'd like to show that talks about what will happen during Bowl Week. So, Matt, I don't know if that's ready.
Congratulations on an incredible season, and welcome to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Above all else, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is the ultimate reward for your New Year's Six Bowl appearance and the culmination of an incredible season. Our Bowl Week is designed with you in mind. It's meant to create memorable experiences and give you a chance to live, laugh, and learn while in Atlanta. You've got a lot to look forward to as you become the stars of the show in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. At the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, we're all about competition. So before the big game, we'll have a little fun with our Battle for Bowl Week. The Battle for Bowl Week will pit players from each team against each other in a series of competitions at several of the Bowl Week events. Daily battles will all lead to one team taking home the coveted Battle for Bowl Week championship belt. Your bowl week experience starts with a trip to Andretti Indoor Karting for games and the first competition, full throttle go-karting. At your team hotels, the battles continue with shooting some hoops in our basketball challenge. Later in the week, you'll visit the College Football Hall of Fame, where you'll get a great meal and enjoy a private tour of the facility, taking in all the interactive elements that dive deep into the heritage and tradition of college football. There, you'll compete in a pair of competitions, including our famous Football Feud game show event, where the battle for Bowl Week belts will be awarded. When you're not taking part in our planned Bowl Week activities, you can just relax and enjoy some time in your exclusive Players Hospitality Suite created just for you. One of the more meaningful activities during Bowl Week will include a very special trip to a local children's hospital, where just a few moments of shared time will brighten the lives of some of your biggest fans. Another event unique to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and a highlight of the week is the trip to the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, where you'll learn about the civil rights movement from men who walked with Dr. King. Since we know you'll be with us for the holidays, we've gone the extra mile to ensure that your team will enjoy a special private holiday dinner with all the family touches you'd expect. And we didn't forget why you're really here. To cap off your week, you'll hit the field of the newest and best stadium in the world for a New Year's Six bowl game against a top-ranked opponent. The atmosphere in Mercedes-Benz Stadium will be electric. We've got a busy week planned for you, and we hope you enjoy the journey as you live, laugh, and learn your way through Bowl Week in Atlanta. So be prepared for the experience of a lifetime as you get set to play on a national stage in one of the country's most elite bowl games, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
All right, so that's a little taste of what the bowl week experience is going to be like for the Gators and you guys as well. That concludes the official part here. We'll go ahead and we've got time for a little Q&A. If you would just raise your hand, we'll get you a microphone here on either end, and we'll take questions either from Coach or Gary or Scott whenever you're ready. Somebody's got to be first. Adam, looking your way.
I've never seen this crew this quiet before, reserved. Y'all make me nervous.
They can't wait to get to Atlanta and do
They're
all that
all
stuff.
making me nervous right now. They're seeing the Chick-fil-A cookies over there, which are certainly hard to beat the Chick-fil-A cookie. That's my biggest concern with the bowl game right now, is the amount of Chick-fil-A cookies that'll be around, because I have a hard time resisting those.
Megan says you don't need much sugar.
I know. I certainly don't need a whole lot of cookies either right now at the Christmas time.
Dan, Florida's had a couple meetings with Michigan in the last few years. Is this a chance to kind of be a little bit of a measuring stick for how far you guys have come?
Sure. I think right now we're a team, like I said, that we want to compete for championships. And you get in a matchup here in a bowl game with two top 10 teams. I don't know that it defines a lot about next season, but this certainly, because both teams will have very different rosters next year. But I think when you look at us a program as a whole, we want to be a team that is continually in the top 10. And because if you are, that puts you in a position to compete for championships on a regular basis. So I think it certainly will be a challenge and a test to see where we're at. Boy, you guys can't.
Yeah.
Boy,
Dan, you get 15 practices, I guess it is, right?
you get as many as you want, but
Yeah.
I don't. We've had 2 so far, and we'll practice again tomorrow. But yeah.
Do you know how many you're going to end up having?
Let's see. So our base schedule is we'll have another practice tomorrow. Then we have finals. We'll practice next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and those will be somewhat developmental practices. That's why very much like spring practice that we're using. A lot of fundamentals, a lot of technique, some teamwork, a lot of guys getting reps. That's why we open those up to the public for all the Gator fans want to come out and watch the team and see the team practice. Then we'll get into a game week. We'll do a game week routine, so we'll do 4 more practices here in a game week. Just like we would a normal week. We'll practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll wrap up Thursday like we're ready to go play that Saturday. Then we'll take a couple days off, get to the bowl site on Sunday night, the 23rd, and then go through another. The great thing with the game being on a Saturday is I don't have to do the
math.
Tuesday's a Thursday, Wednesday's a Friday, Saturday's a Thursday type of deal. It's just a regular week. So we'll have our bowl week preparation there, Monday through Friday practices, and then like we would in a regular game week, and then play on Saturday.
That's what I was going to ask you, though, is how much of this bowl, having this, everybody talks about how important it is to make a bowl to be able to have practice. How much of it is developmental, even going forward?
Well, I think there's a lot because, you're looking, so we're having 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll get 6 developmental practices in. On top of the fact, with a lot of the NCAA rules right now is, when the season ends, you go into your 2 weeks where you can't have team activities. So our guys continuing and being able to work out, actually being able to host in recruiting, I think is a huge deal because that falls into that NCAA rule. So it's hard to have a recruiting weekend when you can't have your players are not allowed to be involved in any way, shape, or form. Can't host, can't do anything. I think off of those rules, right? Is that what it is? I'm pretty. It's a tricky deal. So it just is. It's a big benefit for every part of the program.
So if you're like this week or next week, you couldn't have take a kid out or if you're not
my
in a bowl
interpretation.
game.
Am I right on that?
I think you'd have to get a waiver.
Yeah, you'd have to get because when the season ends, right? In the NCAA rules, there's 2-week window where you cannot. Right, they have to have the mandatory 2 weeks off at the end of a season, and hosting a recruit is considered a activity.
But that doesn't apply if you're.
We're still playing. So ours would start on the 20th. Our 2 weeks off start on the 30th.
Oh, when you're done, okay.
So with that said, is it more of a disadvantage to miss the bowl game now with signing date in the middle of December?
It does. It's a tough deal.
Yeah, how have you, I started talking about this at Florida State, if you recall, about the early signing period and how have you kind of adjusted to that? I mean, now that you're in year 2.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it is. It's busy for us. That's what it is. As you look and, what I've tried to do, if you go back to a traditional February signing day, I get to make one visit with a prospect as the head coach. You can see them one time, and then they have the one official visit. So we try to kind of spread those out some. So it used to be, hey, if a guy was visiting in December, I'd see him in January. If they were visiting in January, I'd try to see them in December. With the early signing, you have a lot of both going on at the same time for me to get in the house. So I think it makes our schedule a little bit crazier right now as you're getting ready. You're trying to get the developmental practices in. Trying to work with the guys here on the team, but there's also a lot of pressure coming up on December the 19th to have everything done and signed. One of the big things we try to do get with the guys is separate who's an early signee, who's a late signee, and set up our recruiting calendar and schedule around when they're going to sign, when they're going to make decisions.
How much better have you gotten at it in year 2? The juggling act and the logistical organization.
Well, it's kind of year 1 for this one. Last year was a juggling act in a very sort of different way for me. We didn't have a bowl game to prep for, but we had a kind of a program to organize and put together, and a staff and hiring coaches and staff. So it's kind of year 1 with the bowl game, with the early signing for me. But it's, I think our guys, our people on campus have done a great job with all the coaches out on the road recruiting. Vernell Brown, John Clark, all the people on campus have done a great job, our academic staff, making sure, Nick Savage, making sure with the guys getting the workouts and our training staff getting our health and getting us back kind of healthy again after the season. And, and so the coaches are doing a great job, and you're kind of, the nice thing, I think I got lucky last week. Because I had to get on a plane before they made the announcement, and I had a laptop that had about 6 different teams on it for me to start watching while I was traveling around through the week. And fortunately, Michigan was one of those teams because it would have been a tough deal. I could have studied some other teams, but it was good to have Michigan on there so that I could start studying them.
Do you give it a thumbs up early signing, or are you?
Yeah, I like early signing. As it is right now, because there's guys that have made up their decision. you look at the benefit. If there's guys that know where they want to go to school, that have the opportunity to go sign and end it. And it's a long process. These guys are being recruited for years. And I think for them and their family, there's other guys have a lot of work to do. At times, and I always catch myself sometimes, you're almost hypocritical sometimes in what you're doing as a coach. That we're stressing academics, we're working, here's what you need to do in the classroom, get your eligibility to get the classes done and get everything done. And I'm talking that and saying that to them after I've pulled them out of class to meet with me. And so I think for a lot of guys, especially when you look at academics, the opportunity to sign early, the whole month of January, they're not being pulled out of class every single day. They have the opportunity to get academic stuff done, or any guys that need work done. There's some that don't, but they still, for the families, the distraction of hosting coaches and having coaches at their house every single night, that they know where they want to go to school. They can sign and prepare for the next stage in the next stage of their life.
Question for Coach and Scott. Obviously, a disappointing 2017. Did you think this would be a realistic possibility in year one under Coach Mullen to get to a bowl of this caliber?
I wasn't here in 2017, so I'll let him start.
I was. Dan did a phenomenal job, and his staff did a phenomenal job in year one. And I was remiss in my earlier comments on not congratulating Dan and the team for putting us in this position. So I don't. When you make a change, especially coming off a 4-7 season, I don't think it's realistic to say that this was an expectation. I think at the University of Florida, you get accustomed to the level of success that all of our sports have, and you expect a football team to be in this position regularly. But to turn it around in 1 year is a huge credit to Dan and his ability to come in and connect and do all the great things that he and his staff did this year. It's a great credit to our players to accept new leadership and hold themselves accountable and then go out and compete and put themselves in position to win 9 ball games and go 5-3 in the SEC and go undefeated in non-conference and all those things. So it's really rewarding. I said this after the FSU game. The momentum and the enthusiasm from Gator Nation, from all those fans out there wearing the orange and blue, that is really rewarding, and that is fun to see. And I got to give Dan credit for creating that spark and making this a program that's a lot of fun for our fans to follow.
Coach,
Thank you.
You weren't here last year, obviously, but when you came in and you evaluated the talent, did you think you could make these kind of strides this quickly?
Yeah, I have really high standards, and just as a head coach, I mean that's when you're the head coach of a program, you expect to win, and that's always been my belief, and so I thought, if you would have said before the season you're going to be 9-3 and playing in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, take it or leave it, you probably would take it. I still have high standards where to me the most important thing is to go win the game. We want to compete for championships, and if you look, we weren't able to win the SEC East championship or the SEC championship or a national championship this year, but we have an opportunity to win the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl championship. So I think winning the game would be a real satisfying end to this season and jumpstart us into where we expect to be in the future.
Time for a couple more. Go here to the right.
Then you already touched on recruiting, but just being in the New Year's Six Bowl and having recruits be able to watch you guys play on that stage, how much is that going to help? Because it's been 2012 since Florida was in a game like that.
Well, I think a lot because, when we talk about the Gator standard and what it is, and Scott touched on it, and of here at the University of Florida that we expect to compete for championships, not in football, in every single sport. I think for a lot of recruits out there, they've been able to see, and when we got here, we talked about what our vision of the program's going to be, what it's going to be like in the future. But there's a lot of recruits out there. They want the opportunity to go compete for SEC and national championships, and I think what they've seen out of this team this year is we're a program that's going to be able to do that, and not 4 to 5 years down the road, that we're a program that, right now has the opportunity to finish as a top 10 team in the country, which automatically puts you in that discussion every single year. And so I think for a lot of recruits to see the type of year we've had, having the honor of going to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, I think it shows where the program's at and what we can accomplish during their careers when they come. So it's certainly helping with recruiting.
And then one of your former assistant coaches is also on his way to Atlanta. Jeff Collins was just hired by Georgia Tech. What do you think about that news and just his climb, in his coaching career?
Well, I'm really happy. I think for Georgia Tech, and I think it is going to be a transition. Obviously, and I have a lot of respect. I'm good friends with Paul Johnson, and the job he did there was absolutely amazing. And if you look, his consistency in the track record and what he was able to build. Coming in, it'll probably be a complete shift in the offense, in what they do. I'm guessing. I haven't talked to Jeff, but I am really happy for him. But when you look at a guy like Jeff and the energy that he brings, the excitement he brings to the sidelines, the juice, as he uses, that we use a lot in our program, having been together, I think he'll do a great job. I think he'll do an amazing job, and I think it's a great hire for Georgia Tech. Yeah. We did. He was the D coordinator at Brown during my 2 seasons at Columbia.
John Brown, was that Brown?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was the DC at Brown those 2 years. John Hevesy was an assistant coach for him, with him at Brown. So there are those ties to Don and what he's done. I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not going to break out the 96 Columbia game. No, I think we went 0-2. Well, let me hold off on that. Listen, I have a winning record at Columbia. So don't just assume because it was Columbia that we didn't win. I left there with a winning record. They had some good players, though, at Brown back in that day. I just, not on a regular basis, but know him and see him different coaching events and those things. With players? Absolutely. Well, first off, it's a very personal decision for every individual person in what they decide to do. What we want to do is educate them as best as possible. If you really do research and study the statistics of what comes on in these guys' future in football, if you're projected to be a first rounder, as it goes to whether it makes the decision to stay in college or go, you should. Our recommendation is you leave to go to the NFL if you're going to be a first round draft pick. If you're going to be a second-round draft pick, I think you have a tough decision to make, but you really want to look at and weigh your options, where you're at, both physically and mentally. Because you're not going to have the opportunity. You're not going to get really that life-changing money that you could get in the first round until you would get a second contract. And so you have to really make a decision. Are you somebody that's both mentally and physically ready, that I want to take the chance, that I'm going to stay healthy for 4 years instead of 1 to get that second contract, get life-changing money. Third round or below, you really should stay in school. And, I imagine you could go ask every executive in the NFL, every GM that actually makes the decisions. They'll probably share that information with you as well. Statistically speaking, your odds once you hit the third round significantly drop to get a second contract. And so what we want to do is educate our guys into making good decisions. We'll see. Our guys that do decide to leave early, if they get drafted in the first round, they made a great decision. If they get drafted in the second round, they probably you could very argue they made a good decision. If they get drafted below the third round, they probably didn't make a very good decision for their future and their careers. As far as it pertains to the bowl game, it's a very similar deal. It's a personal decision for each individual, and we talk to them, and we support our guys. Once you're a Gator, you're part of the Gator family, and you're being part of the Gator family is not you're part of the Gator family while you're on the field playing for us. You're part of the Gator family for life, whether you're a Heisman Trophy winner, or you never really you play one snap in your career. That I don't view anybody differently. So, you know, I mean, I've had a player not come back and return for his senior year several years ago, who I think was a preseason All-SEC kicker. And he declared for dental school. He went on to medical school. He didn't come back for his senior year. I supported that decision for him just as well. But all of these decisions are very personal about individuals' future, and our job is to educate them as best we can, whether or not they want to play in the bowl game. As you know, Gary mentioned something like all the competition of the bowl. So these guys are competitors. You know, and they're part of this team, part of this family. So I think there's always a draw to want to play back and, you know, want to play one more game, want to put on that, if I'm, you know, whether I'm a senior or whether I'm somebody that's potentially an underclassman that's leaving early for the draft, the opportunity, this would be the last opportunity you have to put that Gator helmet on and put on that uniform and go represent the Gators and be a part of this team. So there's a big draw to that, and that's exciting. But, you know, on a personal note, if guys think that for their future that's not the best idea, that's not going to change our opinion or our support of them. Absolutely not. You know, again, that's a personal decision, you know, of decisions they make and what they do and how the bowl game plays out for them. That's a very personal decision for every individual, you know. And so, but I think a lot of them. I think the key is making sure you're educated. I saw a stat, you know. I think in the projected on all the different mock drafts this year, there's been 108 guys projected in the first round in the different mock drafts in the last year for this year's coming draft. 108. Now, my math's right. There's 32 first-round draft picks. There's 64 in the top 2 rounds. So almost half of the guys that are projected in all the mock drafts to go in the first round won't go in the first 2 rounds. So, you know, I think part of the big thing that we sit down with our guys is to educate them to make really good decisions on their futures. And I think if you ask guys that I've had in the past, we've had an excellent track record of guys that we recommended to leave, had great success, guys that we told to stay, stayed and went on to have great success, and unfortunately guys that we told to stay that decided to leave have not had very good success. And, you know, because we're in it I want to see guys succeed at the highest level. I think he did very well in dental school, so.
Ideally, would those guys decide by signing day, or is that?
No, with the early signing day, it's different. I think they have to January 14th is the day. I suggest they take as much time, you know, as possible, and gather as much information. Again, you know, when you look at this, when you look at the decision, it's not just you. Who else is in the draft? Right? I mean, you might say, hey, I'm really good at my position. Yes, you are, but there's also 5 guys that have entered at that position are going to be in this year's draft, which gives you the opportunity where you could drop down, where next year you'll be the number 1 guy at that position. Well, that could be a $30 million difference. That's like 30 when you go in the first round and you're talking about generational changing money for young people. So it's the complete education. Let's not just find out about you, where you project to go, who else, right? When your draft grade comes back, which we had several guys put in their grade, and to find that back, that should be part of your decision making, that you look and say, they project me to be this type of a player. But who else is, that draft grade doesn't reflect who else is coming out in the draft. It says that right in the letter that they write back to the guys of saying, hey, this is your projected grade, but please, it's not a guarantee, and it doesn't reflect who else may enter this year's draft that could be rated higher than you.
All right, well, go ahead.
No,
One more? Okay, last question.
Two-part question for Gary. Gary, how much conversation was there around maybe having the Gators match up with UCF, and why did that not happen?
Well, frankly, we don't make that decision. You know, it's the CFP selection committee. The way the process worked this year, and Scott can probably address this better than I, but 1 through 4 is placed by the committee in the 2 semifinals. And then the sugar and the rose, since they're contract bowls and have relationships with respective conferences, they go to that committee and they make those decisions. Then it comes back to the committee for decisions for us in the Fiesta Bowl this year. So we didn't have any say-so either way. It was up to the selection committee. And that's part of the New Year's Six. You know that when you're getting in.
Yeah, I'll add to that what Gary described is exactly how it works. And at that point, the four highest ranked teams available were Michigan, UCF, Florida, and LSU. And at that point, they looked at me and they said, "Scott, could you leave the room?" And so I did. And fortunately, I had food waiting on the outside, so I went and 10 minutes later, they brought me back in, and I looked on the wall where they have the screen and they have the matchups, and that's when I found out what happened. And there's some conspiracy theorists out there that like to imagine how things work, and that is pure fantasy. I sat for 5 straight weeks right next to Gene Smith from Ohio State. On my right, 2 seats over to my left was Joe Castiglione from Oklahoma. Never once in 5 weeks of hanging out in Dallas, having meals together, sitting in committee meetings with them, did those 2 guys ever say anything to me about their team relative to the rankings? Not one time. Nor did I ever bring up anything related to the Gators in the rankings. And so, and the same can be said for the placement in the bowl site. So there's a real respect for the process and the integrity that goes into it. The fact of the matter is, those guys are pros, and they're the best at what they do, and I try to emulate those guys. They're models of mine, and in the same way, I want to make sure that we're handling it the right way. So the committee does it, as Gary says, for a reason. They manage it the way they do for that very reason. The bowls don't get to politic. The schools don't get to politic. It's a very pure process from that standpoint, and the great beauty of it is we get great matchups, right? And so, and I said this to our good friend down in Orlando, the reporter the other day, Bianchi, if it had been us against UCF, that would have been a great matchup. We're blessed that it's us in Michigan because that's going to be a great matchup. And I know, like Dan said at the very beginning, we're fortunate to be in the New Year's Six, and that's a great honor, and really doesn't matter who you play at that point.
And I'll take it a step further. With respect to us, the Fiesta and the Cotton Bowl, we're access bowls, and typically nothing's written as far as I can understand. We understand that we're going to take the group of 5 champion one time, and then the other bowl will take them the next time. And in the 3rd year of the cycle, the Cotton Bowl has to take them because us and the Fiesta both are hosting semifinals. So next year, the group of 5 champion will go to the Cotton Bowl because that's the only access point they have. The other bowls have contracts.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll do, if you guys can sit tight, we'll just have you stand. We'll do a quick photo op.